the Memphis heat, and a life forgotten. The air is thick with humidity, clinging to Samantha Parker's skin as she steps outside, her scrubs damp with sweat from the long shift. She takes a deep breath, savoring the temporary silence before the next patient calls. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. Then, she hears a quiet whimper from the parking lot. Her eyes follow the sound toward an old rescue van parked just beyond the clinic's entrance. Its doors are open, revealing cages lined up inside, each holding a dog desperate for a second chance. Linda Money, the president of Mid-South Animal Rescue League, stands beside it, her expression heavy with exhaustion. Samantha approaches, wiping her hands on her scrubs. "What do we have today?" she asks. Linda exhales, motioning toward the back of the van. This one, her voice falters as she steps aside, revealing a frail yellow Labrador curled up in the corner of a crate. Samantha's breath catches. The dog barely lifts her head, her ribs visible beneath patches of matted fur. A faded collar hangs loosely around her neck, the tag rusted and unreadable. Flies buzz around her thin frame, but she doesn't move. Yet, it's her eyes that haunt Samantha the most. Deep brown, clouded with exhaustion, yet somewhere, buried beneath the sorrow, there is a flicker of hope. Linda's voice is quiet, almost hesitant. Her owner passed away. His son took her in, but he didn't want her. Samantha frowns. "What do you mean?" Linda crosses her arms, staring at the ground. "He chained her outside. No food. No water. Just left her there. She had a tiny wire kennel, barely big enough to turn around in. If we hadn't gotten a call from a neighbor, she wouldn't have survived another week in that heat." Samantha clenches her jaw, her fingers tightening around the crate's latch. How many times had she seen this before? How many times had people discarded their pets like they were nothing? She kneels down, reaching into the crate. The dog flinches at first, her body tensing. But then, after a moment, she does something unexpected. She leans in. Weak, trembling, she presses her cold, damp nose into Samantha's palm. "You're safe now," she murmurs. The dog, who has known nothing but loneliness for so long, lets out a soft sigh. Linda watches, her lips twitching into a small, knowing smile. "I don't think she's going to the shelter, is she?" Samantha doesn't even hesitate. "No," she says firmly. "She's coming home with me." The decision is made. Samantha drives in silence, her mind replaying everything Linda had told her. She glances over at Lady. The dog is watching her not out of fear, but something deeper. A silent plea. "We're going home, Lady," Samantha murmurs, testing the name on her tongue. The dog doesn't react at first. But then, ever so slightly, her tail thumps against the seat. Samantha swallows the lump in her throat. "Yeah," she whispers. "You're gonna be okay now." Samantha exhales, gripping the wheel a little tighter. "You're safe now, sweet girl," she murmurs. Lady doesn't react, her deep brown eyes fixed on the raindrops streaking down the glass. It will take time. Samantha knows this better than anyone. A dog who has spent years chained outside, unloved and unwanted, doesn't learn to trust overnight. But what Lady doesn't know yet is that she will never be abandoned again. As they pull into the driveway, warm lights spill out from the windows of the house. Inside, two small faces press against the glass. Samantha's children, Caroline and Jack, eagerly waiting for the new family member. Samantha kneels beside her, voice gentle. "It's okay, Lady. You don't have to be afraid anymore." Jack, usually skeptical about dogs, lingers near the door. Caroline, on the other hand, is already crouched low, her face alight with pure joy. "Hi, sweetheart," she whispers. "We've been waiting for you." Lady's ears twitch, but she doesn't move forward. Samantha sighs, placing her hand on Lady's back. Beneath her fingers, she can feel every ridge of bone, every scar of a life lived in neglect. Then, ever so cautiously, Lady takes her first step forward. One step, then another. And finally, she crosses the threshold into a home. Samantha's heart aches. She doesn't know what to do, Caroline says softly. Jack, arms crossed, frowns. Maybe she's just not happy here. Samantha shakes her head. No, honey. She just doesn't know what home feels like yet. Caroline moves first, slowly sitting on the rug near Lady. She doesn't try to pet her, doesn't rush, she just sits, her small voice warm and welcoming. It's okay, Lady. You can sit with us. You're safe here. Lady's ears perk at the words, but she remains frozen. Then, Samantha remembers something. She disappears into the kitchen, returning with a treat, small, soft, something easy for an old dog's tired teeth. She places it in her palm, extending her hand, waiting. A long pause. Then a twitch of Lady's nose. Slowly, cautiously, she inches forward. The tip of her nose brushes against Samantha's palm, and then a small, hesitant lick. It's not much, but it's everything. Lady still doesn't play. She doesn't wag her tail. But she doesn't flinch when Samantha reaches out anymore. That, Samantha decides, is progress. Lady sniffs the dog bed, hesitant, unsure. Then, with a deep, exhausted sigh, she lowers herself onto the soft cushion. And then something unexpected happens. For the first time since stepping into the house, she lets out a deep breath and closes her eyes. A quiet understanding passes between them. Lady is home now. And then the softest sound. A thump. Then another. Samantha sits up, eyes widening as she sees it, Lady's tail, gently wagging. Not fast. Not excited. Just content. A tear slips down Samantha's cheek. Good girl, she whispers. Lady lifts her head, ears twitching. For the first time, her gaze isn't filled with fear. For the first time, there is trust. Caroline and her friends are in the middle of arranging their sleepover masterpiece. Sheets drape over furniture, fairy lights twinkle inside, and stuffed animals are lined up like loyal guardians of their fort. And right at the center, curled up in a nest of blankets and warmth, is Lady, the senior dog who once had nothing, no shelter, no love, no warmth, now finds herself surrounded by a sea of giggles, soft hands, and warm hearts. She shifts slightly, her tired bones sinking into the plush comfort. For a dog who had once known only cold ground and loneliness, this moment is a dream come true. Lady is the best sleepover buddy ever, Caroline declares, grinning as she gently rests her head against the old lab's side. Lady lets out a deep, contented sigh. Her tail wags lazily, a slow, steady rhythm that speaks of trust, happiness, and peace. Samantha, watching from the doorway, smiles. She never had this before, she says softly, mostly to herself. Her mind drifts back to the day Lady arrived weak, unsure, broken. The transformation is nothing short of miraculous. She deserves this, Samantha whispers, wiping a tear from her eye. Lady, as if sensing the emotion in the air, lifts her head and nuzzles Caroline's cheek. The little girl giggles. She loves us, Mom. And it's true. Jack stands near the doorway, watching from a distance. Unlike his sister, he's never been a dog person. He wasn't sure how to feel when Lady arrived. He had always been reserved, hesitant, keeping animals at arm's length. But something about her quiet presence tugs at him. She isn't hyper, isn't demanding. She just exists with warmth. He kneels beside her, his hands hesitating in the air before finally resting on her fur. Lady doesn't react at first. She only lets out another slow exhale, her body completely relaxed. Jack strokes her fur absent-mindedly. He doesn't realize he's been holding his breath until he lets it out. She's soft, he mutters, almost surprised. Caroline peeks out from under the blankets. She likes you, Jack. Jack doesn't respond. But after a long pause, he gently scratches behind Lady's ears. And for the first time since she arrived, Lady turns her head and licks Jack's hand. The boy's eyes widen. A small, barely there smile tugs at the corner of his mouth. And though he doesn't say it, something shifts inside him. Lady isn't just a dog anymore. She's family. Lady, nestled between the children, doesn't move. For the first time in so long, she doesn't feel like she has to be on guard. She isn't waiting for food to run out. She isn't bracing for the cold wind. She isn't wondering if love will be taken away again. She is home. Her old body may not move as fast as it used to. Her bones may ache, her fur may be graying. But she has a new purpose now: to love, to protect, to be the heart of this home. As the fire crackles softly in the background, Lady shifts just enough to press her head against Jack's leg. And this time, he doesn't pull away. He just lets her stay. Caroline stirs first, rubbing her sleepy eyes. The moment she sees Lady still curled up with them, she breaks into a sleepy smile. "She stayed with us all night," she whispers. Jack, waking up slower, blinks at the sight of Lady still nestled beside him. And then, without thinking, without hesitation, he reaches out and scratches behind her ears. Lady stirs, yawning, before pressing her gray muzzle against Jack's hand. And that's when it happens. For the first time since she came home, Jack smiles. Not a small one. A real, full, undeniable smile. "She's pretty great," he admits, voice still thick with sleep. Caroline grins. "Told you so." Lady's tail thumps against the floor, slow but happy. She doesn't need to run fast. She doesn't need to chase after anything. She has everything she ever wanted: a family who loves her. And for the first time in her long life, Lady knows she is wanted, truly wanted. She doesn't chase it, but she doesn't have to. Jack laughs, running to get it himself. "It's okay, girl," he says, ruffling her fur. "You don't have to run. We'll play however you want." And that's when it's clear Lady is loved exactly as she is. She isn't young anymore. She isn't perfect. But she is perfect for them. And that's all that matters. Lady stood at the edge of the sidewalk, her body still a bit stiff, but there was something new in her stance today: determination. This was the first time in years that she would walk freely. Not chained to a tree. Not confined to a tiny kennel. Not struggling to survive. This time, she would walk with love. Samantha adjusted the leash gently, not as a restraint, but as a lifeline, a quiet promise that Lady would never be abandoned again. "You ready, girl?" Samantha asked, kneeling beside her. Lady let out a soft huff, as if responding, and then for the first time in a long time, she took her first real step. At first, Lady was hesitant. The leash felt different now. It wasn't tight, forcing her to stay put. It wasn't harsh, pulling her in directions she didn't understand. It was gentle, loose enough to give her space, but strong enough to say, "I'm right here with you." Her tail wagged just a little, just enough for Samantha to see. She walked slowly, her legs still adjusting, her paws pressing into the cool grass with each careful step. But as the minutes passed, something amazing happened. Lady stood taller. Her pace picked up. Her ears perked as she took in the fresh sense of nature around her: cut grass, damp soil, the crisp morning air. For so long, she had been surrounded by loneliness. Today, she was surrounded by life. People began to notice her. First, a jogger slowed down, taking in the sight of the old yellow lab making her way down the path. Then, a woman with a golden retriever stopped, watching Lady's careful but determined step. And finally, an elderly man with a cane, sitting on a nearby bench, smiled as he watched the scene unfold before him. "She's beautiful," the jogger said, nodding at Lady. "What's her story?" the woman with the retriever asked. Samantha paused, glancing down at Lady, who was now sniffing curiously at a fallen leaf. "She was abandoned," Samantha said softly. "Her owner passed, and no one wanted her. She spent years chained outside, alone." The group fell silent for a moment, taking in the weight of those words. Then, the elderly man spoke. "But she's not alone anymore." Lady turned toward him, her deep brown eyes meeting his, as if she understood. And then, for the first time since their walk began, she did something that made Samantha's heart swell. She wagged her tail fully, happily, without hesitation. The small crowd smiled. Because in that moment, Lady wasn't just a dog with a sad past. She was a symbol of hope, resilience, and second chances. For years, Lady's world had been so small. A patch of dirt under a tree. A cage barely big enough to turn around. A life without movement, without adventure. But this was something she had never known. Samantha crouched beside her, whispering, Go ahead, girl. Run. Lady blinked up at her tail wagging as if she was asking for permission. And then she took off. Not a sprint. Not a bound. Just a slow, steady, confident run. The wind rippled through her fur. The morning sun warmed her back. And for the first time in so many years, she ran without fear. Samantha watched through tear-filled eyes, knowing that this moment was everything. Lady was free. And she was loved. Lady's paws were tired, her body worn out, but her heart was full. She had walked farther than she ever thought she could. She had met kind people who saw her, who acknowledged her journey. And most importantly, she had learned that a leash didn't have to mean captivity. It could mean trust. It could mean guidance. It could mean love. Samantha reached down, scratching behind Lady's ears. You did amazing today. Lady leaned into her touch, completely at peace. She wasn't just a rescue anymore. She was part of a family. And that made all the difference. The smell of sizzling burgers and marinated ribs wafted through the warm air, blending with the sound of children's laughter. The Parker family's backyard had never felt so alive. And in the center of it all, Lady, the once-forgotten senior dog, was finally home. She lay stretched out beneath the picnic table, her golden fur glowing in the sunlight, her body relaxed in a way Samantha had rarely seen. No longer curled up in a corner. No longer wary of the hands reaching toward her. No longer waiting for the world to forget her again. Lady was part of something now. A family. And for the first time, she knew what it felt like to belong. The Parker family had always loved their Sunday BBKs, but this one felt different. Maybe it was the way Jack, the boy who once didn't even like dogs, kept sneaking pieces of chicken under the table to Lady, watching in amusement as she gently took them from his palm. Or maybe it was the way Lady never once took her eyes off the kids, always alert, always watching, her quiet, protective presence, an unspoken promise of loyalty and love. Lady had never had this before. No warm family gatherings. No secret treats from the dinner table. No small hands reaching down to scratch her ears just because they could. And yet, here she was, living it, feeling it, absorbing every bit of love around her. Years ago, Lady had been chained to a tree, unable to move, unable to protect herself, let alone anyone else. But now she had purpose. She wasn't just a rescued dog anymore. She was their dog. And when Caroline and her friends squealed with laughter as they jumped into the small inflatable pool, Lady lifted her head, ears twitching. When Jack wrestled his younger cousin in the grass, their playful grunts filling the air, Lady didn't look away. She was there, watching, protecting, not because she had to, not because a chain forced her to stay, but because this was her family now. And nothing, not old age, not a rough past, not even time could ever change that. Samantha hadn't known what to expect when she brought Lady home that first day. She had worried. Would Lady adjust? Would she be happy? Would she ever truly understand that she was safe now? But watching her now, stretched lazily beneath the table, her belly full, her tail thumping lightly against the wooden deck, Samantha knew. Lady understood. More than that, she felt it. She wasn't just a guest in this family. She was woven into the fabric of it. She had been waiting her whole life for this. And now that she had it, she would hold on forever. Jack had never been a dog person. Not really. He had never understood the kind of connection his sister, Caroline, had with animals. But Lady changed that. Maybe it was because she never demanded anything from him. Maybe it was because, despite her age and weariness, she always greeted him with the same gentle affection. Or maybe it was because she had been through so much, and still, all she wanted to do was love and protect the people who saved her. So, as the party went on around them, Jack did something unexpected. He reached down, scratching behind Lady's ears, letting his fingers run along her velvety muzzle. "You're a good girl, Lady," he whispered. Lady lifted her head, nudging his palm softly before letting out a deep, content sigh. That was all the answer he needed. This was the kind of night Lady never dreamed of. She had once been forgotten. Now, she was cherished. She had once been alone. Now, she was surrounded by love. Samantha ran her fingers through Lady's fur one last time as the evening air cooled around them. "You're home, girl." Lady let out another sigh, settling deeper into the soft cushion of grass beneath her. She knew. And for the first time, she could finally sleep without fear. She was home. Forever. Inside the Parker home, the warmth of love and companionship contrasts the storm outside. Samantha Parker sat at her desk, her fingers running through her hair, exhaustion evident in the way she sighed. Piles of medical charts and notes were scattered in front of her, a constant reminder of the never-ending demands of her work at the vet clinic. She barely registered the soft, rhythmic pattering of the rain against the windows. The sky had darkened, thunder rumbling in the distance, but Samantha was too lost in her own thoughts to notice. Too much work. Too many cases. Too little time. But before the weight of her stress could consume her, she felt it, a warm, familiar presence by her side. Lady! The senior yellow lab, her loyal companion, had silently crept up beside her chair. Without hesitation, she rested her graying muzzle gently on Samantha's lap. She didn't ask for attention. She didn't demand anything in return. She simply was there. A quiet, steadfast presence, offering comfort in the only way she knew how. For a moment, Samantha didn't move. She simply felt the warmth of Lady's body against her legs, the soft, rhythmic rise and fall of her breath, the unspoken promise in her deep brown eyes. She would never leave her. Lady had been abandoned before. She had known loneliness. She had known what it was like to be unwanted. But here, in this home, she would never feel that again. And Samantha, feeling the depth of Lady's silent devotion, let go of her stress for just a moment. She reached down, her fingers threading through Lady's soft graying fur. "You always know, don't you?" she murmured. Lady's only response was a soft exhale, her tail thumping once against the hardwood floor. She didn't need words. She didn't need explanations. She understood. The storm outside raged on. Flashes of lightning lit up the sky, the deep rumble of thunder following close behind. Caroline and Jack were upstairs, tucked away in their rooms, the soft hum of music leaking under their doors. But Lady didn't leave Samantha's side. She stayed, curled up beside the chair, her head never lifting from Samantha's lap. Samantha smiled softly. Even in the loudest of storms, even in moments of chaos, Lady was her constant. She had spent so much of her life being forgotten. Now, she would never be left behind again. Dogs like Lady didn't ask for much. They didn't need fancy toys or luxurious beds. They didn't seek out grand gestures or extravagant gifts. All they wanted, all they ever truly needed was love. And Lady had found hers. The unconditional, unwavering kind. The kind that never fades, never hesitates, never asks for anything in return. And in that quiet moment, Samantha understood something deeply. Lady had once been the one in need. Now, she was the one giving. Not just love, not just companionship, but a sense of peace, a reminder that no matter how difficult the day had been, no matter how tired she felt, she was never truly alone. Lady would always be there. Time passed, the thunder quieted, the rain turning into a gentle drizzle. Lady didn't move. Even as Samantha finally leaned back in her chair, her exhaustion easing, the senior lab remained by her side, unwilling to leave her post. The house had settled. Jack's laughter had faded into sleep. Caroline's music had turned to a lullaby. The only sounds now were the raindrops and Lady's soft, steady breathing. It was a picture of home. Not in the traditional sense, not just walls and a roof and furniture, but in the feeling of love, of warmth, of belonging. And in that moment, Samantha realized Lady had given them more than they had ever given her. "Thank you, Lady," she said. Not just for this moment, but for all of them. For choosing to trust again. For loving, even after everything. For being the heart of their home. Lady let out a soft sigh, shifting closer. Her eyes fluttered shut, her body relaxing completely. She knew. She had always known. And in that moment, Samantha whispered a final promise. You will be loved for the rest of your life. A lesson in unwavering love and second chances. Lady's journey from neglect and abandonment to a cherished family member mirrors the struggles many people and animals face in life. How often do we overlook the senior dogs in our lives, the people, relationships, or opportunities that may not seem perfect at first glance? Society tends to favor youth, speed, and perfection, often forgetting that true value lies in resilience, loyalty, and love, things that take time to grow. In life, we all encounter loss, grief, and second chances. Whether it's rebuilding after failure, trusting again after heartbreak, or simply finding joy in what we have, Lady's story reminds us that healing is always possible. She didn't just survive, she thrived, proving that even after a difficult past, love and trust can be rebuilt. Just like Lady, people in our lives, especially the elderly, the overlooked, and those carrying past wounds, deserve patience and kindness. Compassion changes lives. It's not about how much time someone or something has left. It's about making that time meaningful. Life lessons from Lady: never underestimate the power of second chances. Love and kindness can restore even the most broken spirits. Healing takes patience. Whether in relationships, careers, or personal growth, real change doesn't happen overnight. Be present for those who need you. Sometimes, silent support, a comforting presence, is more powerful than words. Age does not define worth. Whether it's a senior pet or an elderly loved one, value exists at every stage of life. Apply this today. Reach out to someone who feels forgotten. Give patience, offer kindness, and embrace the beauty of second chances, because, just like Lady, everyone deserves a place to belong. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories that capture the deep and powerful connection between humans and animals. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Together, let's celebrate the extraordinary bonds that remind us of the love, loyalty, and resilience that make these stories unforgettable. Join us tomorrow for another heartwarming journey you won't want to miss.